The story begins with showing us a young boy who is stuck in an elevator that is heading towards the top. As soon as he reaches the top, he sees a group of people laughing at him, and then they grab him and pull him up. He doesn't understand what's happening and starts running but ends up falling. When he regains consciousness and looks around, he realizes that he is surrounded by some strange towering walls that make it impossible to escape. Then, those people pick him up and lock him inside a shell. Soon after, the leader of the Glade, Albie, arrives, and asks the boy for his name, but he can't remember his name and anything about himself or his past. Albie comforts him and assures him not to worry, and he will remember his name within 2 days, as this is a common occurrence for everyone who ends up there. Albie temporarily starts calling him Greenie. Greenie inquires about his whereabouts and what exactly is going on. Albie explains that we all live here, grow our food here, and sleep here. All our needs are delivered through the elevator once in a month with a new group member. All the people here are known as Gladder. When Greenie asks who is responsible for all of this, Albie admits that he doesn't know and reached here just like him. Greenie then notices the wall openings and asks Albie about it, to which Albie responds that they have only 3 rules. First, do your work and don't waste time. Second, don't hurt other Gladders. And third and most important, never enter inside the wall. However, Greenie is still curious as to why he is not allowed to enter to the walls. Then after a while, Greenie decides to approach the wall and take a closer look. As he closes up, he sees 2 people coming out from inside. Greenie asks Chuck why he is not allowed to go inside, but they are? Chuck explains to him that only runners have permission to enter. Runners are individuals who can run for longer periods of time without getting tired. As Greenie approaches the door, Gally abruptly shoves him down, making him angry. Greenie says that they can't keep him captive like this. As he protests, the wall starts closing, and seeing that, Greenie is shocked. Gally assures him that he won't stop him next time. Later that night, there was a party going on to celebrate the arrival of a new group member, and everyone was having a good time. Greenie and Newt are sitting together. Greenie asks Newt about the wall. Newt explains that it's a maze and they are runners. Every morning they go out to search for the way to get out of the maze and memorize it. Greenie asks how long they have been searching. Newt replies for 3 years. Greenie then asks if they have found anything yet. Newt explains that the routes inside the maze change every day, and only runners know what's inside, and if they don't make it back in time, they will never come back. Everyone who gets trapped inside never make it back. Greenie asks how this is possible. Newt explains that there are creatures called grievers inside the maze, and no one has ever seen them, and whoever seen them never survived. Greenie then asks, "What if I want to become a runner?" Newt replies, "Are you out of your mind? No one wants to become a runner. You have to be chosen to become a runner. You can't just become one." Then, Gally challenges Greenie to a wrestling match, which Greenie accepts. During the match, Gally pins Greenie down, and that's when Greenie remembers his name, which is Thomas. Then the next day, while Thomas is working, Newt sends him to get fertilizer from the jungle. When Thomas is in the jungle, suddenly Ben appears in front of him and attacks him. Actually, Ben is a runner who has been stung by a griever, causing him to become aggressive. Ben blames Thomas that it's all his fault and that he had seen him. Thomas is confused about what Ben is talking about and why he is blaming him, and then Newt comes from behind and knocks Ben down. Later that day, as evening approaches, following the Glade rules, Ben is forced inside the maze despite his requests not to be put inside, as he believes he can recover. But no one listens to him, as he has become quite dangerous. That night, Thomas has a dream that he is in a science laboratory with a woman who keeps saying, "We Kate is good." This dream haunts Thomas every night, but he doesn't understand the significance of it. The next morning, Thomas wakes up and notices that Albie, who is not a runner, has gone into the maze with the other runners. Thomas asks Newt why Albie went in, but Newt doesn't pay much attention to Thomas's question and replies that Albie knows more than we do. Because Albie was the first person to arrive at this place and had been alone for a month, then as more people arrived, Albie realized the importance of sticking together, and everyone here helps each other and follows the rules. So stop asking stupid questions and help us. Hearing Newt's boring speech, Thomas becomes emotional and starts helping out. Then it gets quite dark and it's almost time for the maze to close, but Minho and Albie still haven't returned. This causes everyone to worry, and they gather near the maze opening to wait for them. After a while, the maze is about to close, and they see that Minho is carrying Albie because he had been stung by a griever. Just as the maze is about to close, Thomas rushes inside and the maze shuts behind him. Minho congratulates Thomas and sarcastically tells him that he did a good thing and now he can die easily. Then they both hang Albie from a tree to hide him from grievers. However, when they hear the grievers approaching, Minho runs away, but Thomas stays there and manages to hide Albie from the grievers. But later on, one of the grievers starts chasing Thomas, but he cleverly kills the griever at the wall closing. The next day, everyone waited for Minho and Thomas anxiously with a little hope that they would return. But after some time they saw both of them are coming back with Albie. Everyone is stunned, as no one who had ever been trapped in the maze had returned alive before. To make it even more surprising, Minho revealed that Thomas had managed to kill a griever, which was a historic feat. After a while, the elevator returns with a girl in it, who has a note in her hand that read, "She's the last one ever," which surprised everyone. Then the girl anxiously woke up for a second and utters Thomas's name and gets unconscious again, which further surprises everyone. Then they bought the girl inside the glade. Thomas talks about going back into the maze to search for clues in the griever's body that Thomas killed earlier. Minho and others joined him, and they entered the maze again. They found the griever and discovered a red blinking machine-like object inside its body, which they brought back to the glade. Thomas insisted that they needed to go back inside the maze again. Who knows what else they could find. But Gally is against Thomas in every matter and wants to punish him for breaking the rules and going inside the maze. Newt sides with Gally and decides to lock Thomas in the shell without food for a night, and from the next day onwards they will make him a runner, so he can enter the maze whenever he wants. But Gally is not satisfied with the punishment and disappointingly leaves from there. After that, Minho leads Thomas to a secret room in the jungle that only a select few gladers were allowed to enter. There, he shows Thomas the maze that he had constructed. Minho explains that it is a complete maze and that he has explored every section of it, but there is no way out. Thomas questions why he had not told anyone about this. Minho discloses that Albie had instructed him not to do so, in order to keep hope alive among the gladers that there is a way out. On the other hand, we see that the new girl has woken up and is throwing stones at everyone. Then Thomas arrives there and tells her his name. Upon hearing his name, she stops. Then Thomas approaches her, and she bombards him with questions, and introduces herself as Teresa. Thomas explains all the situation to her, and tells her that they all came here just like her and no one remembers anything except their name. She trusted Thomas, and tells him that she only remembers the water where she was drowning, and there was a woman's voice saying "Wicked is good." Thomas also reveals that she visits in his dreams every night, and utters everything will change, while the voice of the woman who says "Wicked is good" also echoes. Teresa then shows him 2 syringes labeled "Wicked," which she had in her pocket when she arrived. Thomas suspects that these injections were sent to them for some purpose, and he injects it on Albie, who promptly starts recovering. The next day, Thomas and Minho goes into the maze with the machine they retrieved from the griever's body. Then in the middle of the maze, machine starts showing them directions, helping them reaching to a site that Minho never explored before. There they find a door leading to a hole. As they approach the hole, they are scanned by something, and the maze begins to close in on them. They narrowly escape, but once they are outside, Thomas tells everyone what happened. Then Gally starts arguing with Thomas, pointing that he is breaking the rules, but their argument is interrupted by the arrival of Teresa, who shares the news that Albie has regained consciousness. Thomas goes to Albie and shares the news that they may have discovered a way out of the maze, but Albie refuses to believe him, saying that he recalled everything and blames Thomas for their situation. Hearing Albie's confession, everyone is shocked. But suddenly Gladys outside starts shouting that the maze isn't closing. Everyone rushes outside, and the maze, which previously opened from one side, now opens from all 4 sides. Soon, grievers emerge from the maze and begin attacking, causing chaos in the glade. The attack results in many casualties, including Albie, who had just recovered. After wreaking havoc, the grievers retreat back into the maze, and the maze closes again. Then Gally, in his fury, approaches Thomas and punches him, holding him responsible for everything that occurred. He believes that ever since Thomas arrived, problems have arisen, and even Albie had said that it's all Thomas's fault. Then, in order to uncover the truth, Thomas decides to inject himself with a griever's sting in his stomach, hoping to remember his past and the reasons behind their trouble. As Thomas begins to recall that he and Teresa were conducting research on the people in the glade, he realizes that all of the individuals in the glade were part of their study, and he and Teresa are watching all the gladers since they are children and doing research on them. However, Thomas is abruptly awoken by Teresa, who has injected him with a cure. Upon waking up, Thomas confesses everything he saw in his dream, proving that Albie was right. Newt responds by saying that they do not care, since they cannot remember their past, and he urges Thomas to finish what he has started, which is finding a way out of the maze. But on the other hand, Gally managed to convince everyone that Thomas and Teresa were the cause of all the problems in the glade, and the next day he takes them to the maze with the intention of sacrificing them. But before they can do so, Minho, Newt, and Chuck intervene and save Thomas's and Teresa's life. And now their plan is to leave through the same hole they discovered last time. Thomas expresses that the glade is not their true home, and he would rather find a way out than spending his entire life inside. With his speech, he manages to convince some other gladers to come with him, but Gally and his friends refuse to join. Then they enter into the maze, fighting the grievers, resulting in a few casualties. However, they eventually find the way out, and step outside, beholding the outside world for the very first time. It's the same laboratory that was in Thomas's dreams, but the surroundings are in ruins with dead bodies of researchers scattered around. They realize that they were being monitored by the people who worked in this facility. Upon further exploration, they find a video where the director of World Catastrophe Killzone explains that the sun burned the earth, causing billions of deaths, and that a deadly virus was born, spreading rapidly and directly attacking human brains. And to safeguard future generations from this virus, they chose some kids and put them into challenging situations, hoping to stimulate brain development, and ensure that the virus would not affect future generations. The director ends the video by stating that this is just the beginning of their test, and the key to success is to always remember that weak is good. She then shoots herself with a gun. Then they were about to leave from there, but out of thin air Gally appeared behind them with a gun, having been stung by a griever and was now intent on shooting Thomas. Suddenly, Chuck intervened and took the bullet meant for Thomas. Minho then attacked Gally and killed him. On the other hand, Chuck also dies, which makes Thomas very sad. The door then opened, and military personnel arrived and airlifted them away in a helicopter. The military reassured them that everything was alright now. Then they look at the maze from a height where they were trapped for years, which makes the scene quite emotional. On the other side, we see that the woman who committed suicide is still alive. She says that more people than she had imagined were able to escape the maze. Thomas continues to impress her. This is the hope for tomorrow, and now the beginning of Phase 2 will start. And with this scene, movie comes to an end. There are 2 more parts of this movie. If you want me to explain that, let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the explanation.